guys, thanks for joining me this week. So, this week I am talking about emotional triggers and why you should know what yours are. An emotional trigger is basically just when something happens or somebody says something to us, we want to either snap or shut down. Those are known as emotional triggers. An emotional trigger is just an old emotion that continues to show up. So it causes you to feel the same emotions that were felt during like a particularly rough bout of that emotion or during something really traumatizing. So for example, say you have underlying feelings of feeling unworthy and just not being good enough. This was formed when you were a child because your parents made you feel like you were unworthy and you were never good enough. Now in life, when somebody else says something or something happens that makes you feel like you aren't enough, you get triggered. So when you become emotionally triggered, it affects your mood and your state of mind. Triggers can make you feel cranky and moody and just irritable, or you can get really angry and defensive and blame others for triggering you. So when you're in a trigger state of mind, you're just not in flow. You can't really focus on what's most important. It's not anything you do in your life with work and friends and family. It's not going to come from a good place when you're in a triggered state of mind. So, and when you get, like, say somebody else sets off your trigger in you, it's not because that other person wants to make you feel unworthy. I mean, sometimes people can play on your triggers if they know what they are, and they know what triggers you, but that's a whole other video. It's because so when somebody else sets off your trigger, it's not anything like they're not trying to make you feel unworthy. You already feel unworthy. They're just simply highlighting your unworthiness. So the first thing to really know about emotional triggers is they belong to you and nobody else. Maybe there were other people at work, that were there when the triggers got put in place. So your parents, an ex, whatever it is. But they belong to you. Just because other people were there when they were formed, it's yours. You didn't ask for it, but it's your responsibility to know your trigger. So most people are unaware of their triggers. So if you're unaware of what sets you off, and what is making you angry or frustrated, and you can't recognize that emotional trigger in you, you're gonna do a lot of things out of reaction. So like when you're in a reactive state of mind, you're gonna do things that you might regret, say something that you wouldn't necessarily say in a right state of mind. So knowing what your triggers are really important when you're trying to regulate your emotions. So it helps you process what you're feeling without getting wrapped up in the actual story of what's going on. So it's up to you to kind of do that inner work and figure out, how they got there, get to know them. Who was there when they were put there? What feeling are you feeling when you're triggered? And ask all the questions about the triggers and really understand them. And when you begin to do that work, you'll be able to identify in the moments what's triggering you. So when you're first developing, figuring out these triggers, it can be difficult. You might get triggered, you might miss it every once in a while, but don't beat yourself up. It's all right. Like, just try and catch it next time. It's a trigger. It will be back. But when you start to be able to catch them more often, you now have the ability to pause before you react. So you can see your reaction come up, and then you have you're pausing, and then you can make a choice whether or not you want to behave a certain way. So once you can successfully allow your reactions to stay with you and moving through them, it can be uncomfortable at first, but once you start to do that more and more and practice it, it will get easier and easier. And then the trigger will not be a trigger anymore. It might still always be there, but you'll be able to manage it much better. So the important thing to remember when you're moving through that process is, like, a trigger, it will always pass, depending on how deep the trigger is, how long it's been there. It could last, a few hours to a few days, depending, on, till you can get back to that point of a non-triggered state. So when you can get clear on your triggers and how they got there, you can begin to explore, yourself further, and you can prevent them from holding you back in certain situations in life. So do you have any emotional triggers that you're aware of? I've got a few and I work with them all the time. And, how have they affected your life? Let me know in the comments. And if you really like this video, please share it with your friends and let somebody else get something out of it. See you next week, guys.